Breaking right now, Rayner is a tax-evading champagne socialist hypocrite, and she must go. No story, no political story, no Westminster Insider story has made me more angry than this. Rayner was the woman who led with the pitchfork-waving witch hunts against Conservative ministers for minor indiscretions. And now, our patsy mainstream media want to give this woman a free pass. Well, I'm not having it. You shouldn't have it either. So let me take you through this story because it is truly astonishing. After being given pretty much free rein by the mainstream media other than the Daily Telegraph over the past few days, despite it being very, very obvious that she had a massive tax bill that she needed to pay, Rayner ran to her pal, Beff Rigby, the political editor of Sly News. This interview kicked off with an extraordinary 4 minutes of sob story. Angela Rayner sob story. Oh, my son's very unwell, but I'm not going to tell you why. Remember, one of her sons, by the way, runs an OnlyFans account. That's fine, but I'm just saying Angela Rayner should not be treated as some type of Mary Poppins-like figure. But that's what happened. For 4 minutes, Beth Rigby said nothing as Angela Rayner tried to make us feel sorry for her. Then we finally came to this major admission. Watch. Can you believe that more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed? So please do me a huge favour. Click the subscribe button now. Turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos.
So the accusations that you didn't pay enough stamp duty on Hove, they're actually accurate. You didn't.
They are accurate, but they're accurate in a different sense. I think the accusations were that I'd set up a trust or I'd flipped it to try and avoid paying it. But actually the complex area of the trust, which the advice that I relied upon didn't pick that up, the leading tax counsel, who has subsequently looked at it, has gone into that and has said that actually because of that, it did remain my sole property. And the trust wasn't set up as accusations have been made for me to try and flip.
Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. You were the woman who for far, far less were calling for people to go. So at that point, Beff Rigby has one job, okay? One job. It is to absolutely grill her on the details. Instead, what she does is she repeats from her statement and then asks, well, you know, did you consider resigning?
In your statement here, and it's a very long, detailed statement, and it is extremely complicated, you say, I deeply regret the error has been made. I'm committed to resolving the matter, and I have referred myself to the independent advisor on ministerial standards. Just 2 more follow-up for that. Did you consider resigning over this?
I've been in shock, really, because I thought I'd done everything proper and I'd relied on the advice that I received. And I'm devastated because I've always upheld the rules and always have done and always felt proud to do that. I feel, you know, that it is devastating for me. And the fact that the reason why those confidentiality clauses are in place was to protect my son, who, through no fault of his own, he's vulnerable, he's got this life-changing, lifelong conditions. And I don't want him or anything to do with his day-to-day life to be subjected to that level of scrutiny, because it's his and my ex-husband it's not fair on them. Often my family are dragged in because of what my role is and what I do, but I try to uphold the highest standards, and that's why I've referred myself, so that the independent advisor can look at everything. He can look at all of the details of what's gone on.
You talked about how hard it was to disclose it.
So I'm going to stop there because I've really got to flag something that happens next, because I cannot believe it. I had to go back and listen multiple times to make sure that I wasn't actually going insane. In this major news interview, and remember Beff Rigby is the woman who's demanded the resignations of lots of prime ministers in the past, she actually uses the deputy prime minister's nickname. She calls her Angela Rayner. And that then leads to the obligatory tears, which are meant to make us feel sorry for the tax avoider.
Was there a moment as a mum, not as Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, where you thought, I'd rather just quit this than have to actually explain about my son who I'm trying to protect? Did you think about just packing it in rather than having to do this now?
I spoke to my family about it. I spoke to my ex-husband, who has been an incredibly supportive person, because he knows that all I've done is try and support my family and help them.
But you did think about, should I pack it in for the sake of the family, but your family are backing you to come out today and explain this?
The number one priority for me and my ex-husband has always been to support our children and do the best thing for our children.
Just to be clear, you've referred yourself to the Standards Commissioner, you've contacted the tax revenue and said you could be liable for more tax. Presumably you deeply regret this because of potentially the fallout for you. Do you think your position, Angela Rayner, even though you've explained it, do you think it's sustainable? Do you think you can carry on as particularly Housing Minister?
Well, I made a mistake based upon the advice that I relied upon, that I received at the time, and a leading expert has now said that advice was wrong. I think hopefully most people can see if you rely on advice given to you by lawyers and you follow that process and then you find out that that process is wrong and that advice was wrong, I'm rectifying it at the earliest opportunity. People make mistakes, but I conducted myself in trying to do the right thing, and I hope that people can see that.
So legally you're referring yourself, but does it pass the sniff test? I guess that's the question.
Well, that will be for the advisor to look at all of the information that I've supplied to him.
Look at the pain in Beth Rigby's face. Do you remember when she used to be going for Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings? She had joy. She was like a rabid dog. But now it's like, oh, you poor woman. And by the way, just in case you missed it, I do just want to show you the moment that she called her Angela Rayner.
Was there a moment as a mum, not as Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, where you thought, I'd rather just quit this than have to actually explain about my son who I'm trying to protect? Did you think about just packing it in rather than having to do this now?
I spoke.
Okay, and then it gets more extraordinary. Beff Rigby appears live on Sly News after PMQs, and there is a Tory who is a chartered accountant there, and rather than Beth Rigby doing her job and explaining why it is clearly untenable for Angela Rayner to remain in post as Deputy Prime Minister, she does the total opposite and argues that, it was just a mistake and surely she should be given another chance.
Just going on to that, though, I mean, there are different... You can make a tax error or you can actively evade tax. OK, I'm not a tax expert, but I do know these basics. Yeah. You're a chartered accountant. You'll know much more than I will. What if the paper trail reveals that it was a genuine error rather than evasion? Because everyone's throwing around words like evasion. Do you still think she should resign, or should she be given another chance? I mean, sometimes people make mistakes.
People do make mistakes, and in normal circumstances, when there's been inquiries, HMRC will normally, they might show compassion, but normally they will apply a 30% penalty. But the fact of the matter is, she's the Housing Secretary, she's the Deputy Prime Minister, it is different for her, she needs to resign.
So... the difference is stark, right? This is why you cannot trust the regime media. This is why the mainstream media should die. But I just really wanted to show you the contrast of Beff Rigby with the Conservative Prime Ministers, with the Conservative advisors, compared to Beff Rigby today with Rayner.
There's lots of commitments in the manifesto. I think voters are just tired of a lack of honest answers. I'm just saying to you, you're not minded to do it. Undermining your government's key public health message at a time of crisis. Are you compromising the government's response to this pandemic because you can't cope in number 10? Why did you perform a huge U-turn today and decide to drop an attempt to delay a vote about investigating you by the Privileges Standards Committee? Do you think that the issues around rule breaking at number 10 doesn't matter to voters?
No, I don't.
And
I apologise.
This hasn't damaged the Prime Minister. It has undermined your policy and it's undermined public confidence in the government. How can you even countenance at the moment staying on and not resigning? When that report landed on your desk and you read it blow by blow, think about resigning. A poll out today, just out, says 3 in 5 Britons think you should. If Liz wants a whole new mandate, she must take it to the country. That's Nadine Dorries. I mean, the public will see that and think, wow, if the Prime Minister's backers don't back her anymore, we're in trouble. Also claiming your constituency home in Ashton was your main home for other purposes. Do you just want to clear this up? What's going on?
Yeah, first of all, Beth, it's been quite a distressing time for my family.
Was there a moment as a mum, not as Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, where you thought, I'd rather just quit this than have to actually explain about my son who I'm trying to protect? Did you think about just packing it in rather than having to do this now?
I spoke to my family about it.
Presumably you deeply regret this because of potentially the fallout for you. Do you think your position, Angela Rayner, even though you've explained it, do you think it's sustainable? You did think about, should I pack it in for the sake of the family, but your family are backing you.
And I just have to show you one more thing. Rayner did this so many times. She was so over the top about the smallest Conservative Party indiscretion during the last government. Do you remember Nadine Zahawi and his tax affairs? She wrote on X, after months of denials, the truth emerges. His position is untenable. Rishi Sunak must dismiss him from his cabinet. And she even posted it alongside this video. But first, if you're like me, you've spent so much time trying to find the perfect skincare treatments for your face, only to realise you're neglecting this area, right? The skin on your neck. But I have noticed, as I'm in my 40s, that is a massive oversight because the neck is on display all the time, yet so many folk just treat it as an afterthought in their routine. But so many women in the Outspoken audience will know that the skin on your neck is thinner, more delicate and less oily than facial skin, which means it requires specialised care. That's why I was completely blown away when I received my, and oh my goodness, I love it. How beautiful is this? The Go Pure Tighten and Lift Neck Cream, a product transforming the lives and the necks of women, and I have to say, some men too, all across the globe. It's a gorgeous product. I saw a noticeable difference within just weeks, and I know that it can become a game changer for you too. And the big news is Outspoken viewers and listeners get 25% off Go Pure using the code DAN at checkout, D-A-N. Just head to gopurebeauty.com/Dan, use the code DAN, and you're all set. Go Pure's proprietary firming complex is designed to visibly firm and smooth the skin on your neck and your chest, actually, if you want to use it there too, in as little as 4 to 8 weeks. In a consumer study, 100% of users said their skin looked more supple, 97% noted a firmer appearance. What incredible numbers! Indeed, Go Pure's full line of science-backed skin and body care have delivered for over 100,000 real women with real results. Dermatologists recommended cruelty-free. I know how important that is for so many of you. And with over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret can no longer be called a secret, right? So tighten, lift, and restore elasticity in your neck because your skincare routine shouldn't stop at your jawline. For a limited time, Outspoken viewers and listeners get that whopping discount, 25% off. You just have to use the code DAN at checkout. So head right now to gopurebeauty.com/Dan, use the code Dan, and you're all set. And after you do buy, do us a little bit of a favour. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was after watching Outspoken. But now, back to the show.
Every pound of tax that's not delivered to the Chancellor and to the Exchequer means that it damages our public services, and we know the state they're in. So the former Chancellor, when he was Chancellor last summer, made it clear at the time when he was questioned that he pays all his taxes and that he's done everything appropriately, and was threatening legal letters to anyone that questioned him. Now it emerged actually that that's not true, and that there was a HMRC investigation and that he's had to pay penalties for that. I think that makes his position untenable.
I mean, come on. Come on! How can this treacherous woman survive? To my superstar panel, Stephen Barrett, patriotic barrister who runs the Public Gallery Substack, and Sarah White, the Reform UK leader of the Epping Uprising. So, Sarah, firstly, to me, I am very, very clear. Rayner has to go, but I think Beth Rigby has to go too. after this, because what we have seen today is nothing short of mainstream media propaganda, and it is shameful. It's as if they think we're stupid, that we're going to forget how they used to act when the Conservative Party were dealing with scandals much smaller than this.
I mean, it just goes to show that the mainstream media and the government are in cahoots.
Yep.
They're in each other's pockets. And at the end of the day, the audacity of her to say that she didn't know and it was her advisors. She'd have some of the best advisors in the country. Don't tell me that they're that incompetent of doing their job. And boo-hoo, I don't really care about what she's got to say. The only reason she's actually bothered is that she's been caught. And that is it. And the reason her statements are so complicated is because she's lied the whole way through. So she's trying to cover her own arse, basically.
Yeah, and Stephen Barrett, I mean, there's so much to unpick here, but there is much that we don't know. Because firstly, she was saying that there was this anonymity order in place in regards to her son, but then at the same time was saying, oh, but my ex-husband is actually completely on board with everything I'm doing. So that didn't ring true to me. And then I thought your post on X summed this up very well as well. You wrote, Angela Rayner can publish the advice she received that she says is wrong. It will be recorded in written form, even if it was on the telephone. That is how the law is done. So exactly. And even then, Stephen, there is an argument that just taking bad advice, especially if you're the housing minister and deputy prime minister, doesn't save you from a situation like this.
There's certainly that argument, given that the government's website makes it very clear that she needed to pay tax. She didn't need to pay a lawyer to read her own government's website, which they rebranded pointlessly and pathetically for a great deal of our money. But she could have actually read the words on it. She didn't have to look at the stupid graphics. Ultimately, they do think that we're thick.
Yep.
And I think that we all played a bit of a part in that, Dan. And I just want to explain to us all why these inadequate, sort of fourth-rate people we now have as politicians have managed to conclude that we're thick. First of all, they're not very clever. So they let's just admit what they are. Then they've looked at us and they watched us for many, many years, starting in the mid-90s. And basically most of us from the mid-90s until the financial crash were off in the private sector, having fun, making money, having our holidays, having all of our nice new things, and not really paying any attention to politics because it didn't matter. Then came along the financial crash, which was a big chance for us all to wake up. But because we dealt with it just by borrowing and printing loads of money, so it effectively didn't really hurt us, we just carried on for another 10 years going, this is absolutely fine. Everything's, even though things weren't fine, we all didn't pay any attention. It's only COVID that has woken us up and got us paying attention now to the fact that we're in deep, deep doo-doo and we need to get out of it. And the country's, seems to be a Stasi state. And, this is what's waking us up. And so at the same time, we're suddenly paying attention to these fourth raters. And it's almost unfair to them because they're like, you people should be asleep. You shouldn't be paying attention to how incompetent we are. You should be buying this nonsense. And it's like, it's just not going to cut through anymore because push is coming to shove. Things matter too much now. She's not going to, she's thrown every argument out there. She's thrown everybody under the bus to try and get away from it. I think she's particularly, she's disgraced herself in my eyes, Dan, because I was a massive fan until today. So I had been, if you follow me on X, on Twitter, you will see that I have often tweeted in her favour and that she, being a working class woman, might have been an opportunity for Labour. But she has behaved with the arrogance of a lord she's shown today.
But it's that patronising thing, though. I mean, all of my background, my family, all working class, right? But this idea, I saw it today from Starmer, it's as if the working class should be given, should have different rules. It's really patronising, actually. I find it quite disgusting. And also, obviously, it's just the way that she acted. I mean, look, Alex Armstrong has put these together. And I mean, it truly is extraordinary when you look through all of her demands for other people to resign. She called on Gavin Williamson to resign. She called on Nadine Dorris to resign. She called on Matt Hancock to resign and for Boris Johnson to sack him. She called on Andy McDonald to resign. She called on Michael Gove to resign, Dominic Raab to resign. I mean, it went on and on and on and on and on. And this is the problem that I have as well. It is the total rank hypocrisy. What is interesting, though, too, is the way that people are much more likely to support bad behavior from someone who is a woman or who is working class. I mean, I was stunned today to see this from Miriam Cates, who is now the new star of GB News. But, I mean, she's a bit of a lefty, to be honest. Used to be Labour through and through, in my view, even though she was a Conservative MP. But look at this. Angela Rayner has complex living arrangements as a result of her divorce and her son's disability. She took professional advice that a lawyer has now said was wrong. She is taking action to rectify the situation. Rayner should not be hounded out of office. Now, that prompted Camilla Tominey, a fellow presenter on GB News, which is quite interesting, to post, you do know she thinks you're scum, right? Because people seem to forget Angela Rayner called all Conservative scum. She is not some shrinking violet, this woman. And again, can we also please, and I'm not being judgmental about this guy, I want to be very clear, but it's this idea that she is some type of Mary Poppins figure and, you know, everything is about this perfect family, when in reality, she has a very messed up personal life. For example, her eldest was on OnlyFans. Now, again, Sarah White, I'm not judging that, but it's this desperate attempt to present her today as something that she is quite clearly not.
Yeah, she's not. She's definitely not, you know, but she's just a hypocrite all the way through, and comparing herself to playing on, I'm a working class come from a working class background, and you know it's because of my son and because of this, and my ex-husband knows her. Well, was he not looking at her financial circumstances as well? Like who's advising her here? Like I said, she would have the best PR team and the best financial advice.
This woman, sorry, you finish your point, Sarah.
No, I've bought and sold properties. I know exactly how to work out how much I need to pay, and that's without having any advice. But then the solicitors always work it out for you anyway.
This woman did not want to pay the £40,000. End of story. And the sympathy that is currently coming for her is completely unwarranted. She must go, and Slippery Starmer standing by her proves once again that he is a joke Prime Minister. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.